Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Guy. Okay, big First Minister's meeting happened. Our country is so broken, it's just pathetic. Let's just kind of start with the first kind of major story that nobody's really talking about. Canada is gone so socialist that we literally have political prisoners. And I don't know how you feel out there about the whole Freedom Convoy. If you're a full-time subscriber, you obviously know that I back them up 100%. I'm a libertarian. I believe in freedom. I don't believe anybody has the right to tell any individual what they can or cannot do. I mean, obviously, there's a fine line that can be crossed within that. But freedom's freedom. And when you force people to do things, or as the government likes to say, whoa, we just put provisions in. We didn't force anybody to do anything. If you lost your job, that wasn't our fault. No, that wasn't the government's fault. And then all the courts are mute to it because nobody wants to touch this fascist idea that just completely decimated the moral integrity of our country. And there's still millions of people out there, and most of them voted elbows up, who are just an embarrassment to what it is to be Canadian. We can never fix our past if we don't look at it, apologize for it sincerely, and try to make amends and punish those who deserve to be. Instead, we're allowing this to happen.
It seems some people within our justice system want to bring the idea of political prisoners into Canada's system. Hi, I'm Brian Lilly, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. On Wednesday, Tamara, Lich, and Chris Barber are going to start the sentencing hearings for their conviction of mischief as it relates to the Freedom Convoy. You might recall Lich and Barber were two of the organizers of the convoy that rolled into Ottawa at the end of January in 2022. It rocked the nation's capital for 3 weeks and eventually ended with the Emergencies Act being invoked, with police dragging folks off, and with Barber and Lich being charged and then eventually convicted with mischief. That's it, mischief. But the Crown in this case has put forward sentencing recommendations of 7 years for Lich and 8 years for Barber. If you didn't think that this was already a politically motivated prosecution, well, think again. Now, I have to point out that nobody gets 7 and 8 years for mischief. This is a ridiculous request by the Crown Attorney's Office that wouldn't be going forward without the permission or perhaps even the encouragement, maybe the demand of Crown Attorney Dallas Mack. He's not the lead on this case, but this wouldn't happen without his approval, which makes this even more politicized. It drags the system of justice into disrepute when you put forward recommendations like this. Let's hope that Justice Heather Perkins McVeigh, the woman who oversaw the trial and said, no, they're not really guilty of these other crimes, just mischief, looks forward and says, no, that's a ridiculous sentencing recommendation. You can loathe the Freedom Convoy all you want, but we can't have a justice system where sentences are handed out based on anger. Now, look, I get angry at some of these sentences that are handed out for heinous crimes, and they're lighter than this. Are we really going to start sentencing people to mischief, to time in jail for multiple years, with a sentence that's harsher than what we give for heinous crimes? Seems some people would like that, including the Crown Attorney in Ottawa, who perhaps should consider retirement or running for office if he wants to be this political. But Justice Perkins McVeigh needs to look at the facts, consider what is before her, and ultimately say, you know what, 49 days in jail already for Lich, a 45-day trial, 2-day sentencing hearing, and years of their lives, plus the untold cost to taxpayers of millions upon millions of dollars for this prosecution, that's probably enough. This doesn't deserve to go any further. In its time, all of us moved on.
I agree 100%. Thank you so much, Lily. This whole fiasco, this kangaroo court, It's done to punish anybody who goes against government, which is really against every right we have. We have that right, the right to stand up to our government and say, no, you can't do that. That's wrong. And it should be fair. But our court systems aren't fair. The entire judicial system in our country is collapsing. And right now you have mainstream media putting out fake stats. Oh, car thefts are down 3% compared to whatever 3 years ago in the fine print. Violent crime is down 1.9% in the last year and a half in the fine print. They're trying to pacify the people to make it look as though all of a sudden this new government, which is the same government that has caused the complete destruction, the utter desolation of our nation. It's just an embarrassment. And then I got to search long and hard to actually find a video clip, so I'm not reading stuff, because I know that the visual part of the show is what makes it a lot more palatable and enjoyable for people to watch, as opposed to me just sitting here reading documents off. But you have stuff like this that go on a daily basis.
A Quebec woman who left Canada as a teen to join ISIS pleaded guilty to 1 count of terrorism today.
By the way, I'm going to need you to like, share, and subscribe, because she just said a really bad 4-letter word. And she's going to say probably 4 or 5 more before this is over, and I'll be censored. CBC, CTV, and all the rest of CRTC socialist media propaganda, they can say whatever they want. I can't without being censored. My numbers show it, my algorithms show it. And so please, if you want the truth to get out, it takes effort. You need to like, share, and subscribe. And I want to thank all of my subscribers out there, because I know they do it on a constant basis, and you're what keeps this channel afloat. Anyways, let's just go on.
29-year-old Umema Chouet became the first person in Canada to be convicted for providing support to a terrorist entity as a spouse. Chouet left for Syria in 2014 to be a wife to an ISIS fighter. She'd already served 110 days in custody prior to her trial and was sentenced to 1 more day in prison. The mother of 2 was also given 3 years of probation, ordered to participate in depolarization therapy, and must avoid all contact with extremist people or groups.
That's it. 1 day. 3 years probation. Now, I got a cure for this. The problem is, they have it set up so that everyday people can't actually nominate someone. So we need politicians or someone to do so. And I personally believe we should push through and try to nominate Lich and Barber for the Nobel Peace Prize. And let's get a loud horn by at least having them. Personally, I think they should get it. But even if they're mentioned, at least it'll start to shine the light back where it needs to be, which is on the Liberal Party. So to nominate someone for the Nobel Peace Prize, you must meet specific eligibility and criteria to submit your nomination by January 31st of each year. So you need to have, let's see, you got to be university rectors or chancellors, professors of political and social science, history, philosophy, law, and theology, leaders of peace research institutes, foreign affairs institutes, members of national assemblies, governments, and international courts of law. So this is where we have, and I know Pierre Poilievre and Melissa, there's been probably 4 or 5 different conservatives, kind of quietly, 2 fairly loud, who have come out and said that this is just egregious, what's going on, the fact that they're trying to push for 7 years. We need these politicians, because they have the capability to do it, to actually write in and get the nominees started for Chris and Tamara. And let's get the light shining where it belongs. Now, that's my opinion. Let me know how you feel in the comments. just so everybody knows out there, because there's probably a few that are going to go, oh, this guy is a freaking freedom guy. Well, you know what? It was the most peaceful, largest protest that literally echoed around the world. It spread the last bit of hope for hundreds of millions of people globally who were fighting for their rights, and brought back a lot of respect to Canada that we had lost in the prior years of the Liberal government. And now it's just being quashed and hushed, and the media and everybody's trying to be silent on it because they don't want it to be rekindled. They don't want people to be proud of Canadians. They don't like that. They want us to be known as a fascist socialist state. I'm sorry. So sorry. Just the truth, just the facts. Now, let's move on to this First Minister's meeting. First, I'm not going to really dabble on that. I'm going to show you one little wee clip from the prior part. I'm going to focus on this MOU between Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. And we're going to go through this, and then, like I said earlier, I'm going to kind of do some little clips in between with other premiers and stuff to kind of just show you the chaotic country we live in.
Minerals and agricultural products to markets across Canada and across the world. And when it comes to advancing these goals, it's undeniable that there is strength in numbers. Together, we're taking an unprecedented step to further unify our efforts to get shovels in the ground on major projects across industries with one ultimate outcome in mind: connecting our world-class resources and value-added products to Canada's growing list of customers. Our three provinces will also continue our joint calls for the removal of federal barriers to nation-building projects so we can collectively advance pipelines, rails, transmission infrastructure, and other major projects. We know there's strength in taking a united front, but we cannot achieve our shared provincial goals without cooperation from the federal government. Alberta knows this. Saskatchewan knows this, Ontario knows this, and it's time for the federal government to acknowledge it as well. And if Prime Minister Mark Carney doesn't want to work with us, it's not just myself and Scott Moe he'll have to worry about. He'll also have to contend with Premier Doug Ford, who has said many times he'll be all over him like an 800-pound gorilla. So it's time to get rid of the bad laws that have harmed Canada's ability to grow the energy sector and other industries such as mining and manufacturing. By now, you should all know these bad laws that I speak of quite well. Bill C-69, the oil and gas emissions cap, the tanker ban, the net zero vehicle, and net zero electricity mandates. Removing these anti-resource, anti-development laws will allow Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario to attract the investment and project partners we need to get shovels in the ground, grow industries, and create jobs. So I'm excited to continue collaborating so that we can reach our shared goals, including to advance pipelines and responsible energy development. This new way of working together across provincial borders will benefit the people of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, and ultimately all people across Canada. And I'm hopeful that today's momentum continues to build and leads to even more provinces and territories joining us. Thank you, and I'll hand it over to Premier Scott Moe.
No, I'm gonna skip Mo. The guy is really long-winded, and he's boring as hell. But he pretty much confers the same thing, and so we're gonna fast forward a little bit and get into the questions.
Premiers, Peter Zimonjic from CBC News. This is a question for all of you. You've spoken a lot about using, getting our resources to other markets, but as Daniel Smith pointed out, our oil currently runs through the United States to Ontario. Michigan threatened to cut that off a couple of years ago. Trump could cut it off for political reasons. Do we need to build a pipeline from Alberta to Ontario on Canadian soil, regardless of whether there's a proponent or not for national security reasons?
Well, I believe so.
Now, previous episodes, I exposed this guy for just, well, how empty-headed he really is. He's a vacant politician. He's not his brother, that's for sure. He learned his lesson when he went down there, and and literally got slapped around for trying to, threaten to shut off the power. And he was too daft, kind of like the children running our country federally, to understand that they could shut his gas off. They could literally collapse his entire province in 5 minutes. So he learned his lesson, which is really good. But just so, any of the newer viewers or subscribers out there who, don't really know what's going on, this guy is a nincompoop. He's 100% politician. Yeah.
My good friend, the governor of Michigan, and she's known her from day one, constantly threatens to cut off Line 5. That would basically shut down our airport, shut down a big part of Ontario, and we can't chance it any longer. We need to be independent. We need a pipeline going to southwestern Ontario to one of the refineries and be self-reliant. We can't rely on the Americans anymore. As simple as that. I love the Americans, by the way. I love the people. Love the elected officials, except one. And that's it. So yes, we have to start diversifying our trade around the globe. And as Premier Smith and Premier Moe said, we have to be leaders in the G7 when it comes to our economy. And we need to unleash every tool in our Canadian toolbox and tell the world that Canada's open for business. We need to cut the red tape, regulations, and regulatory burden that we're facing. And I'm confident, working with the federal government and the Prime Minister, we'll do exactly that. I'll pass it over to the other premiers.
I would just say very quickly, there's really two conversations there, and you've hit it.
Okay, so Dougie, let's go back in time.
Is this, in your view, a bit of a howl of protest against sort of political establishment? I mean, some people compare you to Donald Trump for being Donald as anti-establishment. No. Is that comparison fair at all?
Yeah. No, not at all. I know the people want to do that, but we've been in politics for 30 years before even Donald Trump existed. And but I'll tell you one thing. They want to talk about Donald Trump. Let's talk about this for a second. You look south of the border, Don, trillions of dollars are coming into the country. They had the highest corporate tax rate at 36% down to 21%. Manufacturing jobs are coming in by the droves, one of the lowest unemployment in 20 years. Then we look at Ontario. 300,000 jobs have been lost. We have the most indebted region in the entire world at $311 billion, paying $12 billion a year in servicing that debt. We're being burdened by this carbon tax, by the highest hydro rates in North America. So these are the things that we're going to turn this province around. We will make this province the most prosperous region in North America to do business in. And I'm going down to the border to say Ontario is open for business.
Is it, does that...
Oh. Interesting. And explain this, Dougie.
Again, Prime Minister, I want to thank you for joining us for this FMM. It's refreshing to some of us that have been around this table for some time to have a Prime Minister that...
Look how interested Carney is as he's getting his butt cleaned.
Has our backs, that are out there. He's a great community builder, and he's a brilliant businessman. And I'm confident that he's going to take the business approach to our federal government that we haven't seen for a long time. So thank you very much, everyone. And I guess let's get started.
Great. Thank you very much, Premier. Thank you to the media.
Right. Moving on.
I would just say very quickly, there's really two conversations there, and you've hit at the continental or Canadian energy security one is the second one. First is as an oil producing region, and providing oil at the highest price possible. The number one priority economically is for us in Western Canada to have access to the Northwest Coast.
Everybody's talking Churchill. I'm doing a little bit of investigating research on that. I'm finding some kind of strange things. Like how they had these companies that were going in there building huge infrastructure without even having the contracts to do anything with it. Like some of the largest storage facilities for critical minerals, complete, sitting empty. Interesting. Now, I have nothing against the idea of obviously getting our resources to market. But a person's got to look at it, first of all, under a business end. Are we lubricating palms on purpose? Taking the most difficult, expensive, and yes, environmentally disastrous way to get them there, which would be Churchill? A lot of people just think Churchill's just this open port now. It's amazing how many people, I see all these different people on, because I watch. I live in this digital world, and a lot of these independents, they're Churchill. Is anybody aware Churchill has frozen waters for like at a minimum a month and a half a year, on average 2.5 months, some years 4 months? So what do? Now you need icebreakers. Okay, who's paying for the icebreakers? Oh, your tax dollars. Do you need icebreakers off of the West Coast? Nope. No, you don't. What about all of this? Save the polar bears. That's their migratory path. Now you're gonna run ships through there, paid for by taxpayer dollars? Why is all this burden now falling on us once again with a liberal government, when all we need to do is get it to the West Coast? Mo is absolutely right. The West Coast is the key. But the West, BC, Southern BC, because again, kind of like Canada, BC is ran by a little wee 4.5% geography, controls the entire province. And what I hear from like the majority of people who live on the eastern side, and like the majority of the northern British Columbians, they want out. They also realize their problem is that little 4.5% of the geography that controls the entire voting and keeps these idiots in power.
Hello, Premier Eby. I'm Michael Serapi with CPAC. Earlier today, we saw your colleagues from Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Ontario announce a memorandum of understanding to work towards energy corridors, pipelines. And in that news conference, both the premiers of Saskatchewan and Alberta talked about the northern BC coast, saying it presents the best opportunity to get oil to global markets. And they also called for, once again, the dropping of a number of regulations that includes the tanker ban off the BC coast. I'm wondering, given that this is the third time that the premiers, the first ministers have come together, whether you are now more open to dropping that ban, giving the support towards that, and exploring the possibility of a pipeline to the BC coast up north.
Well, I mean, let's look at what's happening in BC's north around energy. We have the first shipment of LNG from BC's coast. It will make a material difference in Canada's GDP, the largest private sector investment in Canadian history.
With no help to him, and he's taking credit for it. Previous episodes, people. Alice Ross battled to get that done. He was weaving and ducking and crawling and jumping, all types of hurdles and holes and barriers, and using everything possible to find ways around the provincial and especially the federal government. That's why Ely, who was a Liberal, ran and won a seat for, drumroll, the Conservative Party. Did he go NDP? No. Why? And yet these schmucks are taking credit for it. But just listen to how dumb these guys really are.
The proponents are looking at a second phase right now. In terms of traditional energy projects, we also have Cedar LNG and Silism's LNG.
Thanks to no part for him as well.
That are reaching final investment decision or are in construction. So there are major energy projects that are happening that will also benefit Alberta in BC's north. For the pipeline project that Premier Smith is a great enthusiast of, a heavy oil pipeline project, there is no project, there is no proponent, there is no private sector money involved at all that I'm aware of. When Premier Smith crosses those obvious hurdles to get a project done, then let's have those conversations. But to be blunt, we have major projects that are moving ahead, and that's where our focus is.
So, he won't lift the tanker ban or fight to lift the tanker ban because there's no business. But there's no business because they're not going to spend millions upon millions, maybe even billions of dollars just trying to get approvals to get it there for him to go, nah, we're not moving it. This guy is a colossal, thorn in Canada's rear end. This guy has to go. He is by far the worst, absolute worst premier in Canada. He is working his way to as low as win, if you can imagine. And I mean that woman was beyond just. But he's getting there quick. He's definitely jumped on the toboggan and heading down the hill because obviously he has no idea what the hell he is talking about. Or is it the Sierra Club and Ties Foundation and that had put him in power still control him? That's the Rockefellers and all of the rest of these oil oligarchs, rail kings, right? That don't want and have fought for decades to stop Canadian resources from getting outside of Canada. They love the cheap oil and gas in the States. It makes these billionaires trillionaires. They love it. They love. How would those idiots say it? Oh, right. Useful idiots like this guy. This is the exact reason Canada is in the position it's in right now. Waste of skin.
That will shrink the differential. That will provide additional egress capacity into the U.S. Some of that does come, yes, back up into Canada. But to the oil industry, from an economic perspective, that is the priority. As a Canadian, and as ensuring and valuing and wanting and desiring us to have Canadian energy security and to, yes, be part of a North American energy security plan. But as a Canadian and valuing our Canadian energy security, we certainly need to have Canadian access through a line to the refineries in Eastern Canada. And I think that would be important to those that live in Central and Eastern Canada as well, so that we have that energy security as a country. And I would just point out, and Premier Smith will have much more to say on this, as the largest oil-producing province in Canada by a great margin. I would point out the comparison of what happened most recently in Eastern Europe, when European countries learned that they have been entirely reliant for a significant amount of their energy security on Russia. Not a country that today they want to be reliant on for that energy security and are looking to other options around the world, including uranium from Saskatchewan and nuclear reactors from North America. We shouldn't allow that to happen to us as Canadians, to be reliant on another country, whether it be for the production of our energy or whether it be for accessing that energy through rail lines, pipelines, nor should we in any way be reliant on foreign ports for us to provide that energy security and that opportunity to the world as well. So yes, I think as Canadians, we most certainly need to have a very mature discussion about how we can provide Western Canadian oil and gas to Canadians that live in central and eastern Canada for our own good, looking forward generations, and for our own not only economic security, but ultimately our general security and our energy security moving forward.
Thank you so much, Mo, for pointing out the obvious. You notice he didn't say Churchill once. Not once. In fact, I don't even think he mentioned Manitoba. Why would you want to ship to a spot where it's going to cost the overburden of costs in order to just get the resources out from that port? Make it why would you do it? Now, as a seasonal port, definitely. You could use it as a seasonal port in order to cut time. So yes, we still should be getting resources there, but let's focus on 365 days of the year so we can sign contracts and guarantee a product. Which means, BC, get your crap together, man. What are you doing electing the NDP again? These guys are idiots. And his predecessor wasn't any better.
I've said that I'm supportive of pipelines northeast and west. I'd like to see all of them built. To Scott's point, clearly if we're opening up new markets, our best opportunity is to build a pipeline to the northwest BC coast in order to access the Asian markets. But it should give us pause that we in eastern Canada are overly reliant on oil that either has to come by way of the United States or has to be shipped in from overseas. And so we could have addressed that years ago with the Energy East pipeline. Energy East is now no longer an option that's available to us because those pipelines are now full of gas. But if we can begin by creating a pipeline option that will at least help us to get to Ontario so that we can satisfy the needs of this market, I think that that'll give energy security to the country. And that's probably something that's long overdue. We probably should have done it decades ago. But we didn't do it decades ago, but now we can do it now. And I hope we'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah. And out west, we've all been saying this since literally as far back as I can remember. The argument, and then watching the wars and the chaos, and everybody out here just shaking their head going, why are you buying oil and gas or anything for that matter outside of your own country when you have it in your country? This is the reality of elbows up. We're all Canadian. By the way, those shirts, you can get them for like, I think 10%. Like the sales, they're everywhere. It's disgusting. 50%, they're damn near giving them away. Nobody wants to wear them because they realize elbows up means you got your head either in somebody's tush or buried in the sand. You want to be real Canadian? Then be real Canadian. Support your neighbor. Support the next province, the one furthest over. When my neighbors do good, I do good. I'm happy for them. I don't care if his truck is bigger than mine or he's got a boat or 5 sleds. He's doing good. That means Canada's doing good. This is how we got to start to think. But what's even better is knowing that when they are using and buying to get ahead, they're buying Canadian. This is what we've got to start to do. And out west, it's starting to end. The West, I've toured coast to coast for decades. Nobody is more Canadian or supports Canada more than the Prairies. they're the most proud. If they actually been looking at the labels again since I was knee high to a grasshopper. It was a major thing. You buy Canadian, Canada. It's always been Canada first, and in the last 10 years, that's dying off. They tried one more time with the whole ketchup thing, and then the East voted the Liberals in again, and then boom, lost all that support once again. People are tired of it. They're not supporting the East anymore. As far as the West doesn't, they're like, why? What have we ever got back trying to be proud? So their pride is focusing more inward. We got to get on this. To me, it makes total sense to separate. I'm already there. If the referendum is held, I'm going to vote yes. Of course I'm going to vote yes. Because I see the insanity. This government is still in power. And you got propaganda. I mean, in full swing. Canada's screwed. Eastern Canada's got to get their crap together. You got to start speaking up. This is just craziness. Now, let's go back to goofball.
Would it be easier to find an investor if the BC government were open to actually letting that pipeline go to the BC northern coast?
Well, we own a heavy oil pipeline right now as Canadians that goes to the BC coast. It's the Trans Mountain Pipeline Project. It's up for sale. The federal government can't sell it.
You know why they can't sell it? Because they're asking way too much. Why? Because the government stepped in and built it with your tax dollars. For billions of dollars more than it would have cost a private company to build it. And those same companies, why would they buy it if there's still no security in it for them? Don't forget, there's an oil cap. What does that do for future investment? Why would you want to buy something if all of a sudden the government changes their mind? The East keeps voting in the Liberal regime. Do you think a company's going to come in and buy that? Would you invest your money in it knowing the Liberals are still in power? Boy, have I got a lakefront property in the Sahara Desert for you to buy. Give your head a shake, man. Eby, wake up.
Major pipeline proponents that one would expect to be participating in the north are not. And so I think there's a reason for that. I think there's other interest around investment in British Columbia and Alberta. We're supportive. If Premier Smith can cross that hurdle of identifying a proponent and an actual project, then let's have that conversation. But in the meantime, we're encouraging the federal government, and for ourselves, the focus is on projects with proponents that are ready to go, that are through environmental assessment. And if we do that, we can deliver some really big projects for Canada. BC will be the economic engine, frankly, of the new economy that we're building here in Canada because of our port access to markets, the resources we have, and we're going to facilitate access for other provinces too, to get to those markets, just as we always have.
Just like you always have. Why are we screaming we need pipelines? How much coal gets shipped to China off your port there, goofball? Oh, right, one of the largest coal shipping ports, BC. Where does it go? China. But oh no, they got their green thumb shoved up their butts, right? Oh, we're all green. We're all about the environment. These guys are the broken engine. They switched it for an EV and they got nothing for power. They're dead in the water. You hit the mountains, you're done. We got Quebec on one side, and then we got this idiot on the other. Which leaves us which port? Oh boy. Bring on the icebreakers. Bring on the exorbitant cost overtures. Bring on the extra taxes. Bring on all of the extra costs. Do you think we'll be able, with the cost that it takes with all of the taxes and what's lost on wages in order for companies to pay proper, what do you think that product costs by the time it gets to another country? Do you think we can compete with Venezuela? Russia? Saudi Arabia? Nope. Do you see what's going on? This is all on purpose, people. This guy's bought and paid for. He's owned by America. He can get up here and scream all he wants about, oh, Canada. I know, and he does this little thing there. Oh, well, you know, oh, they were calling us, you know, mean and ignorant, and well, I like it. Well, you know what? You're an idiot. Because you're the reason Canada's in. It's people like him and himself is the reason we're here. This is why the West is done. This is why the prairies have had enough. And every day the number grows. Parliament is shut down. Every day, more and more people are coming out of the woodwork. Another threat of raised tariffs, more and more people are switching and going, yep, we're ready to sign that. Where's the petition? Let's get out of Canada. You cannot blame them. You cannot blame me. How? When you have got complete incompetence, you still have all the same socialist children sitting in Parliament with a new general who literally, lackadaisically, is doing nothing while media is saying, oh, he's working record fast. How? What has he actually done? Zilch nada.
Hi, Mickey here with Politico. This question is for Smith and Ford. I was speaking with John Katsimatidis regarding the ostrich situation in BC. He had a meeting yesterday with RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz on this matter. He essentially wants the PM to intervene in the case, and he said that he's spoken to both of you on this issue as well. Will you be applying pressure to the PM on this? And do either of you have any issues or any concerns about the federal government's treatment of farmers, particularly in this case?
Now, do you notice the media all of a sudden started talking about, well, Epperstein, you know, the Jeffrey Epperstein and the Ostriches? The Jeffrey file has been going on for years. Our media hasn't said crickets about it. And now all of a sudden, it's on every news cycle. Interesting. All right. Push a narrative. Push a narrative. Personally, I'd love to see the list. Everybody knows there's a list. Yeah, Trump, what are you hiding? You know, crap or get off the pot. In the meantime, why is the media all of a sudden stirring about this? And here's the kicker. Why the ostriches out of the blue? And when did you start to hear mainstream talk about it? Right. The day Mark Carney's finances got exposed. Do you see this? Propaganda. This is propaganda. Now, personally, I've been reporting on this. I think it's incredibly important. Scientifically, it's stupid to want to just eliminate the herd. You literally have to be a complete moron. Oh, wait a minute. We're run by morons. Right. To want to go and take a herd that now has herd immunity and not use that herd to try to figure out a way to actually make a pokey poke that may cure the bird flu. Well, I'm going to finish with this segment because this is informative news and this should be talked about, and I'm glad the media is finally talking about it, but just wanted to make sure you know that I know that you know that I know. The only reason they're talking about it now is because they're doing the ready, go get the ball. Don't take your eyes off the prize, people. We have the most compromised prime minister in our history, spending more money than Governor Turd did.
Well, I have asked my agriculture minister to look into it to see if we had a similar situation in Alberta, what would we be able to do differently? And one of the things that I think is worth looking at is when avian flu went through that herd, it did kill 20% of them, but it didn't kill 80% of them. So maybe there is something to learn from whether there's an immunity or some kind of vaccine that could be developed as a result of having that flock survive. I think that maybe we have to think about different ways to do animal husbandry and animal safety, and why not try a different approach? So I'm open-minded to see if there's any persuasion on that. I gather that the U.S. government is interested in partnering with BC if they wanted to do that. I'd be supportive of that because you can see that this case has really taken on a lot of public sentiment behind it. And if we can find a better way than doing mass culls in any situation like this, I think it's probably worth it to try to find a better way to do it. I don't know if you've got a thought.
Yeah, no, I've talked to John many times about these ostriches. I'm an animal lover, full disclosure, and I want to do everything I can to help him. I think he had a plan to bring him down to Florida as well, to a sanctuary down there. So anything John needs, I'm always there to support him. He's a good man. He cares for animals, and he puts his money where his mouth is, too, when it comes to making sure that he protects all animals. So, thank you.
I tell you, Premier Danielle Smith should have been the Prime Minister. She's the smartest person in the room everywhere she goes when it comes to being surrounded by any of the politicians that are out there in Canada right now. I am going to share this clip. It'll be in the description. This is Rebel News had an interview here. This was done yesterday. I don't have time this episode to run this, so I like I said, I'll put it in the description for you. You guys can click on it and watch it. It's a really good interview. It discusses everything from RFK and all the people involved, Dr. Oz, and it's as usual, Rebel News doing a very good, thorough job with a very good interview, allowing the person they're interviewing full disclosure and the time to really explain everything that's going on. Moving on.
Hi there, Michael Sarabia with CPAC. The question is actually for you, Premier Ford. And I appreciate today's announcement has to do with pipelines and energy corridors, but given that amongst the regulations is the EV mandate, what does today's announcement, how does that affect your past enthusiasm to develop battery plants in Ontario as well as have EVs manufactured in Ontario?
Well, I always believe I'm a big proponent of the market dictates. The market will dictate, not governments will dictate. We have to get rid of these mandates that companies won't be able to meet their targets. And let's continue investing. I'm confident that eventually the EV sector per se will continue growing.
I'm sorry, but do you see the little smirk on Danielle Smith's face? I just have to point that out.
But right now, the people are going to decide. But let's not slow down on building the battery plants and any other EV plants. But who knows this the best but the auto sector? And they'll determine that. But we're going to continue investing in the market itself.
Mo looks like my kids when they were 3 years old and they were standing in the corner filling their diaper. Yeah, I should actually pull this off so that you can see his face. It's quite comical.
I'll just add a couple things. I think Doug produces 1.2 million cars, and Canadians buy about 1.2 million cars. So we've, as a province, taken the leadership in saying we're going to prioritize fleet vehicles that are made and finished in Ontario. And there's some great options. There's light-duty vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles, there's hybrid vehicles. And so we would hope that others would look at it in the same way, that if the Americans are going to take a hostile approach against our auto industry, I think it's up to us to be supportive. When it comes to electric vehicles, we only have a very small percentage of electric vehicles that have been purchased in Alberta. And as I mentioned, if we were to try to meet the mandate in Alberta alone, we'd have to buy all of the low emissions vehicles currently being produced in Ontario, which is impossible for the entire country to achieve, which means this policy is forcing us to look outside of supporting for Ontario in order to be able to achieve it. And I guess the last thing I'd say is that we think that we're trying to build our hydrogen economy in Alberta. We bought the Edmonton International Airport bought 100 Toyota Mirais, which is the passenger vehicle. We're doing a dual fuel pilot with the trucking industry. CP is building hydrogen locomotives in our province. We have hydrogen for home heating, hydrogen as well that we're looking for electricity. But I would love to see the Ontario manufacturers figure out a way that we could perhaps have a hydrogen combustion engine. I know Toyota is made here. And then that may be a way for us to reach zero emissions targets a different way. I think.
Did you see that? Doug Ford, he just got slapped with a reality check. Toyota, again, previous episodes, has been screaming, EVs, wrong direction, people. You wanna pollute the earth? Just keep going with your EVs. They're a disaster waiting to happen. And scary, dangerous. I mean, if your car has a ding or isn't running, your EV, you can't even take it on the ferry. These cars are going to start piling up on the islands because nobody's going to want to put them on their ship or vessel. They let these things at sea when they light up, and the media never talks about it. I brought one or two up here throughout mine. There's been way more than that I don't have time to talk about. Like, they just let them sink. The environmental disaster that they are. And personally, I'm not the whole carbon. I love carbon. I feed it to my plants. It's the chemicals. It's all of the other acids and crap that's put out from these batteries. What happens when they hit water? You ever seen a video of that? Actually, previous episode, I'm pretty sure I did show a clip of what happens when they hit water. But I'll do one here again in the future because these are going to keep coming up more and more often. We got houses burning down left and right. The craziest part is now insurances are huge if you're going to bring your EV inside and have an indoor charging station. But yet we live in Canada. If your battery freezes, the car's no good for you. If there's any bit of condensation anywhere around there, or ice or water built up around the battery and the ice water freezes, it's called hydraulicking. It expands and it crushes the battery, likely to poke holes, damage cells. EVs are, I'm sorry, a thing of the past. We got way better technologies. Hydrogen is definitely one of them. Now, is it the cure all for end all? No, we're not there yet. But Toyota is way ahead of everybody. They've been warning the world, and of course, propaganda. They don't want they don't want people to know. But I love how Doug Ford sat there and went, "Oh, actually, yeah, she's kind of right on that," because even a lot of the big three are already starting to change over and look more into the hydrogen aspect of it. And then hydrogen's got to be hydrogen, right? Where you get it from. We're already losing most of the drinking water. So, there's always a downside. But anyways, we'll let her finish, and then we're going to drop a big bomb that came out here today.
I think that we have to allow the market and innovators to be able to meet the needs of each individual marketplace. And so I'm hoping we can have a really constructive conversation with Ontario about that now. I've begun it as well with individuals with Toyota who've been in our province. And so let's just have a little more latitude to allow for the market to work and innovation to work. That's what I would say, and I think we can all benefit from that.
Yeah, I think so. Huh.
A huge number, $3.7 billion. We're talking the first half of this year. Seems huge. What does this mean for the company?
It is huge. The company's not yet at risk of failure, but these are they're going in the wrong direction. I mean, that's what it means. It's not only the tariffs, but let's be very clear. The tariffs are a major contributing factor for these losses.
That is a lie. That is a lie. That's him talking. Just so you know, that's propaganda. EVs have been plummeting. People are losing money on them. They don't want to be dropping 30 some, 40 some, 60 some, 80, $100,000 on a vehicle that not only has a chance of not even making it 2 years in Canada, but has zero resale value. That's a no-brainer. Sorry. That would you buy that? I'm not no millionaire. In fact, even if I was, I sure in hell wouldn't be throwing $100,000 out the door for a couple years. I'd like to at least see it get reused. Maybe, you know, hand it down to my kids or something. Or no, they're EVs. This is Stellantis. They've lost more than $3 billion in the first 6 months of 2025.
Stellantis, though, did have problems prior to this. I mean, they just changed the CEO. He left abruptly and prematurely last December because they were already having problems with their sales. Sales were down to North America. They've got structural problems inside the company, and I think it's part of the ongoing integration because they're really three companies in one. It's the old Fiat from Italy, Peugeot from France, and, of course, the North American Chrysler and Jeep. So they've got integration problems, but first and foremost are the tariffs. That's really changing the climate for the auto industry.
So tariffs, restructuring. What about electric vehicles? How does that play into this?
This is something we're not talking about enough, I think. And electric vehicle car sales are going up around the world. They're skyrocketing in Europe and especially in China, where I've been teaching every year. You can see it on the road, on the ground, with all the EVs everywhere. But North America has not. There's a much more greater reluctance.
Yes, they have in China. And where is there a 100% tariff on imports on EVs from China? Here in Canada. We can't compete with them. This is all corporate greed, people, pushing an agenda. Yes, sales are going up. And again, previous episodes, I exposed this. They say by record numbers. Right. And how come it's usually in countries where they're taking these stats that have got huge amounts of immigration, and all of these countries where these numbers are skyrocketing have tax incentives paid by the taxpayers that cut the costs of the EVs down, and even the loans are set up differently than if you were to buy a gas car. They're easier to get. This system is set up this way. It's propaganda. But don't worry, this is all going to come crashing down. Guaranteed, this is all going to come crashing down. You have the administration itself that's aware of it. With three of the largest car companies on the planet that have been battling the last two governments on their home turf, which is the Biden administration, which now we're seeing there could be a lot of people go to jail. I'll probably do something on that. I try not to dabble on the American politics that much, but it's not looking good. They got documents and stuff. Obama, you're in big trouble, buddy. And the Liberal Party, they're the ones that decimated the auto sector. If you're in the auto sector and you voted for the Liberals, I mean, wow. You really need to get away from your union representatives and actually learn the truth. Sorry. Just the truth. Previous episodes, I blew this wide open. How many people do you see in these factories?
Possibly because of the greater distances that we drive, possibly because we drive bigger vehicles, SUVs and trucks and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But the EV sales are down, not up. And they put a lot of money, Stellantis has put a lot of money into EV R&D and plants, and the sales aren't there to sustain it. Mm-hmm. So they've got some tough choices coming down the pipes.
Well, I had to tell you, I drive an EV. I'm a new EV driver, and I was expecting the infrastructure to be more readily available. Like, I'm searching for charges a lot of the time. And then, of course, you've got that incentive that has been removed, the tax incentive, right? So that all plays into this as well, I assume.
You're absolutely right. And Lindsay, I'm glad you brought that up. I just bought it.
See how they slipped that in? The tax incentive. What, do you think the government just has money? Where do you think that money comes from? It comes from us taxpayers. They're using our own blood, sweat, and tears for these corporations and their investors to make billions of dollars in profit and force this insanity upon us. Really? Propaganda. It's looking like there could be like hundreds, maybe thousands of layoffs. And where do you think they're going to affect first? Canada. Yeah, Canada.
Isaac Callan, Global News. You can stay there again, Premier.
Thank you.
On Quebec, both on this MOU and on the interprovincial trade, is Quebec on board with what you want to do with pipelines, and what's taking so long in terms of getting François Legault to sign up to an interprovincial trade MOU with Ontario? What's the barrier?
Well, we've had the opportunity to sign 10 MOUs with the territories and all the provinces, to the exception of Quebec and Newfoundland, but I think we'll get there. Premier Legault is a very bright, business-minded person, and we'll get there. They're unique, but we'll get around to getting it done. I love them, I do, but yeah, that's important. But I think we'll have a chat with them, all three of us. We'll see what happens.
Now, I know I'm running over time, but this is crucial.
Canada is not open to us. They need to open their market. Unless they're willing to open their market, they're going to pay a tariff. I think the president's going to open between $300 and $400 billion of opportunity for Americans.
Let's start with Canada first, because Kevin, you touched on it a little bit with Carney before, and how you think this negotiation is going to play out. Your thoughts on that and USMCA?
It's tense. There's no question about it. Canada is one of the countries I invest in, along with the EU and the Middle East. The situation there boils down to a couple of things. Litnick was making reference to two major buffers that Canada has set up against the U.S., financial services and the banking sector, and then supply-side management in dairy, for example, in Quebec. These are sticking points right now. Carney's well aware of it. You got to remember, Canada was run by an idiot king for a decade, and the GDP ground to a halt, and 25% of the population there now lives at the poverty line. So Carney is highly incentivized to fix these problems. He realizes that 70% of trade is with 26 states in the U.S. So this is a give and take. He doesn't want to hit August 1 back up to the April 3rd 35% tax. He'd love to cut a deal. I know his team is killing themselves trying to do it right now. And, it's back and forth, back and forth. But a lot of the people involved in it are still the Trudeau-era retreads, because he's got to deal with what he's got. So he may have to get personally involved. The amazing thing about Trump, which is so different than previous administrations, you got to sit down with the guy, because he's a very transactional guy. And that's not what they're used to. They're used to sending a team down. They work with other administrative people. In the end, if it's really tight, Carney has to get his rear end down to Washington again. Maybe. And the thing about Trump is he lets people watch the sausage being made. The cameras are in the White House. That freaks out a lot of people.
Yeah.
But
you
that's
think
how
Carney's freaked out by it?
No, Carney has done a good job, and I think he's not a majority mandate. And unfortunately, in the parliamentary system in Australia, Britain, and Canada, the longest you last before another election is 12 to 18 months. So he's got.
We can only pray. We can only pray that this government falls, and we start seeing heads roll, another government come in and just start exposing all the fraud, all the manipulation, and start trying to get all of our tax dollars back.
To get moving here. He missed it by just a few seats. And so he's got that pressure, plus the Canadian people want to see a deal. They want to get this thing over with because it's so volatile. You can't even buy whiskey in Ontario from Tennessee right now. That makes a lot of people unhappy.
That's one of their retaliations.
But nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. I mean, they want this thing worked out, and Ontario definitely is a huge trading partner. And so I'm very optimistic that Carney is the right guy for this moment, and he will get something worked out. It may not be perfect, but it's better than what we got right now.
When Carney got elected on the I'm going to stand up to Trump thing, I think that's faded a little bit. Like, after a while, that is not so interesting to the Canadian people, and what's more interesting is income in their pockets. But it's
or whiskey in their glass.
Or whiskey in the jar. But you've got to go to D.C. if you're Carney. Not only do you have to do it in front of the cameras, but you got to do it while the president says you should still become the 51st
But look what's
state.
happened. Every time he goes to D.C., he is so big-footed by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Carney. Every time Carney goes to D.C., I mean, it's an embarrassment. Even though you kind of have fun in sort of a sick way of watching Trump Bigfoot him, he does it every single time. And I know he's an old corporate negotiator, and I'm talking about Carney here.
Oh, we've got some video.
He likes to talk about it, but every time they are together, what you see is one man dominating the show, and that one man is Donald Trump. It may be different in the back room, but I don't think so.
Let me give you the news from the sovereign wealth guy's point of view on Canada. It's so bad there, it can't get worse. And so they have one thing, because remember, no more capital went to Canada for the last decade.
Listen carefully. He drops a bunch of truth here. But you got to remember, Kevin O'Leary, he's a businessman. He's kissing a little bit of Carney butt here. I can guarantee you, he's not a Carney fan. He understands the Liberals' policies, and he's not a policy fan of Carney. And in previous episodes, I've shown O'Leary talking about Carney's book values and what he really thinks of him. He knows Carney is a fascist Marxist. He knows this, but you got it. He's being political. So, but listen to these truth bombs.
That's why the Canadian dollar dropped. They have one thing that everybody needs: power, unlimited power in the lowest cost for North America. Watch what happens, because I'm trying to figure out in the old hockey analogy, where's the puck going next? It's going to the power. So I'm taking some big bets, mostly in Alberta, where they're very pro, and Burgum made a deal there for only 10% tariff on oil. Right. He was pretty smart to do that with, Daniel Smith, the premier. I got a good feeling about that. Power is what we all need all across North America.
And
I think that's going to work out.
I just want to say they are our northern border. We need to have relationships with them that are positive, in my view.
They got
I say
power.
that as the wife of a Canadian.
3 cents a kilowatt hour. You can't find that anywhere in the States right now. They got it.
Although, you mentioned Alberta. Half of the electorate in Alberta wants to secede.
I know.
And Trump is very much playing into their hands. He knows that is where the money is. Of course, they send so much more money to Ottawa than they get back.
They're having a referendum early in the year just to quell that whole separatism thing.
Good luck.
Might quell it, might flame it a little bit, though.
Meanwhile, you got the power.
There you go. I know I went 10 minutes over. I really have a hard time keeping these short. I want to do a couple really brief little just updates to show you the reality of Canada here, okay? So Holly Doan posted this. I fact check it. It's Blacklocks. Blacklocks is probably one of the greatest reporting agencies in Canada. So by the numbers, according to May 1st briefing note written by at Committee Canada, you can scroll to see the final figure here. As of January 1st, 2025, Canada's non-permanent resident population was estimated at, you ready for this? 3,049,277. Broken down as follows: work permit holders, 347,000 plus, family members of permit holders who do not have a permit themselves, 163,000 plus, asylum claimants with a work permit, only 282,000 plus, asylum claimants with a study permit, only 2,300 plus, asylum claimants with a work and study permit, 16,000 plus, and asylum claimants without a work study permit, 129,000. So the memos to the immigration minister, I mean, that's the equivalent of 18.5%. 18.5% of the private sector workforce in Canada. Let that sink in, people. And then you've got this type of crap happening. Vote buying with your tax dollars. Now, Juste Prix, I am a Just for Last fan. I lost all respect for them when they went woke. And when they went woke, they went broke. And they didn't want to turn around. They didn't want to get back to the reality. So they had to file for bankruptcy. So in 2024, filing for bankruptcy protection, Just for Last told Quebec Superior Court they were unable to pay the bills, despite receiving $15.3 million in federal subsidies in the previous 4 years. Creditors are owed $23.7 million. What does Melanie Joly do? The incompetent nitwit gives $1.9 million of our tax dollars to a grant to the company in bankruptcy court that already owes taxpayers millions of dollars. Congratulations, she told producers of Just for Laughs Festival. Congratulations. I'm just going to give you all this money. It's not mine to give. Even though you're bankrupt and you owe all these people money, most of them Canadian companies and Canadian producers and all of this, the stages and the rest of the... You guys can go without your money, but we're going to give them a little wee bit more. This is lubricity. This is political lubricity. This is soaking the palms of the voters. This has got to end. This is more tax dollars being doled out. She has no right to do this. And yet, have you heard anything on mainstream? How about the previous? Have you heard any of that on mainstream? Crickets. Absolute crickets. Canada is... We are so broken. We are so broken. It's a sad, sad world we live in. Anyways, you guys, I'm going to call that an episode. I hope I got you all up to date on what's going on with the MOU. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Check out the clothing. I just got a email back. I have to do a little wee bit of the change on a few of the newer clothes that I have got out. I'm still looking for some suggestions. I've had a few really good emails sent in. I'm not going to drop any names yet, but there are a couple of viewers that sent in some pretty good ideas for some logos on Freeing Milk. Anyways, I'm working on those right now. Hopefully we can get this thing sorted out, and hopefully by Friday, if not early next week, I'll have a few more great logoed sweaters and shirts and cups, etc. out there for you. So anyways, you guys, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Tagay. Stay informed.